Okay, it seems she's not. Yes. So I guess I can go on and introduce the speaker. Yes. So as I said, we have Ndiga Njeru, a senior technical recruiter at Google. Yeah, I really don't know much about him, and so I'll give him the chance to introduce himself. Yeah. So yeah, welcome, James.
Hey, mic check. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all. Sorry, we are in one of the best moments in our climate change experience where it's raining. I'm actually in Nairobi and there's a heavy downpour and we are experiencing torrential rains. So in case I drop off, I'm sorry, it's power cut. KPLC will do that. Um, thank you for having me, and thank you for sharing this opportunity to share what it takes to get into an opportunity to land a role in either at Microsoft, Google, or big companies. um, I don't know how many of us do we have by the before you continue. I can only see 12 participants, and I'm wondering whether that's a good quorum.
I guess some are late in joining, but they'll just join us as the session goes on.
Okay, cool. That's fine. That's fine. So let me do this. Just a moment. Can you see my screen? Hey, can anyone see my screen? I'm
Oh,
sharing my screen. I have a
it's not yet
presentation.
visible. I just removed my presentation.
Okay, sure. Let's see. And if you're not speaking, kindly mute yourself. Visible now?
Yeah, the screen is visible.
Thank you. Thanks for joining the call, everyone. As I said, I'm Ndiganjeru. I'm senior technical recruiter at Google. Um, so the agenda for today is just to make sure that we understand what it takes to land a job either at one of the multinationals or at any given company in the world. So I'll be taking you through how to prepare your CV and also how to prepare for your interviews. And I'm also proud to see one of my best friends here, Mark Gatere, uh, hosting you guys. Hi, Mark. How are you? Come off mute. Say hi to everyone.
Hello, sir. I'm fine, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm excited and looking forward to learning a lot in this session. Thank you so much.
Great. So if you're new here, this is one of the, I think, phenomenal talent that I've come across ever since I met him at Dedan Kimadi. He's been, growing and challenging and, beating the status quo. So anyone who wants to connect with Mark, just make sure you connect with him because, it's a superpower that I know. Anyway, so for today, the agenda is just as simple as it is, as you can see on the screen. To take you through, first of all start sharing my career journey, then tell you about how to see yourself. I was hoping we'd have an exercise, but I think because of the rains and the internet connections challenges that we have, we might not be able to do it now. Then I'll give you some tips and tricks on how to prepare your CV. Then I'll share to you how we hire based on my experience at Andela, at Microsoft, and at Google, and then what it takes to be hired as a technical, or sorry, what it takes to go through the technical interviewing. And then in case you have any questions, feel free to ask me. So let's start it. My name is Ndiganjeru, but some people know me as James. Can you hear me, by the way? Just to clarify, because I'm tethering.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great, and you can see my screen.
Yeah, everything is good.
Okay, cool. So my name is Ndiganjeru. I started my career at AMREF, which is the African Medical Research Foundation, which is one of the, I think, largest NGOs or non-governmental organizations in the health sector. I started as a telemedicine assistant. Basically, what we are doing is we are building virtual assistant systems to help doctors in and community health workers in remote areas to connect with doctors in urban areas to be able to diagnose and treat patients in remote areas. I worked there for 9 months, but we have to round it off to 1 year. Then I moved to the iHub, which is the largest and the first innovation hub in Africa. And started there as an outreach coordinator, served there for 2 years and 9 months. My role was basically to connect universities and other, you know, communities outside Nairobi to bridge the digital divide in the country. And I worked with a lot of universities and was able to help a lot of organizations back then, and namely Intel, Cellulant, Safaricom, it was building, Oracle, IBM, and the likes, to be able to tap into the talent into the continent. And then later I moved to Andela. Andela is one of the largest organizations in the world, which placed African talent into the global market. And basically, my job was to make sure that we hire the best of the best talent to come into Andela, and they do their best jobs to be able to prove that Africa there's a lot of talent. So I served there for 3 years and 6 months. I was one of the pioneers at Andela, in charge of expanding Andela's coverage to Rwanda, Uganda, Egypt, and in Nigeria. And then I left there, joined Safe Border. Safe Border, I don't know whether you know about it. It's a logistic company in terms of delivery. I only served there for a short. Microsoft called me and they were like, "Hey, Indigo, we want you to join Microsoft to help us build the African Development Center in Kenya." So I was in charge of building the African Center, which now seats over 700 engineers in Nairobi and over 300 engineers in Egypt. And then I left Microsoft to where I'm currently serving as a senior technical recruiter at Google, where we currently have over 60 engineers helping us build all these amazing technologies that we're doing in terms of artificial intelligence, Android, cloud, and such. So that's has been my journey. However, as a software engineer, that is not always right, like straightforward. So what I want to share with you is two fronts here. So you might find someone who, for lack of a better name, John, who, joined clubbing school and started coding, went to the university, had an opportunity, was privileged to get into the startup ecosystem. They graduated and did a few, freelance job at Upwork or whatever, and then was accepted as a software engineer because of their, path or their experience and also their skills. Um, and then Mary here, and then I'm not profiling any gender, but I'm just trying to explain to you how, getting into your dream company can be good. So you probably did, a degree in education or For example, my first degree at Maseno University was a degree in science in farm, like that. Horticultural management, actually, horticultural management, which I left because I wasn't feeling comfortable in it. So think about yourself as someone who is transitioning or making a career change into software engineering, and your path is not clear. You're coming from a background also hospitality, education, commerce, finance, and stuff. And I'm not like downplaying those careers, but I'm just saying sometimes people reflect and they're like, I need to make a transition. And look at Mary's path. It's not straightforward. If you look back at John's path, it's very straightforward in terms of becoming a software engineer. But if you look at Mary's, which is just an example and not profiling, it's gone through, thick and thin. But at the end of the day, they end up landing a job at Google, which is one of the most prestigious companies that any one of us wants to work for. So how do you make sure that you stand out and you always at the top of what the recruiters or the hiring team will look out for? Number one, I want to make this clear to you guys. We are the team or the part of the recruiting team. It takes us 6 to 8 seconds to screen a CV. I'm not lying to you. I have 10 years of experience. I'll screen your CV in like even less. Nowadays, even with my experience, it takes less of 6 seconds to be able to know whether I really want to engage with you or not. So how do you make sure that you position your application to a recruiter who has two eyes to be an outstanding candidate and be given that opportunity to shine or interview with that company? So I'm gonna give you some tips and tricks on how do you make sure that you understand, first of all, what the job you are applying for entails. How do you tailor make your CV to be able to be screened in less than 6 seconds and stand out more than 1,000 plus applications that we get. And I'll tell you a story. When I joined Andela my first time in 2015, the first time I posted a job, I received 12,647 applications in an hour. And my boss was like, "Oh, Digga, these you just created like fake accounts just to show that you have an impact in the organization." And I'm like, "No, it's not it. Like, these are not fake accounts." And then we went through the CVs, and out of the 12,647 applications, only 17 candidates were eligible for the role. And it's because people miss out a lot of things when they are preparing to apply for a job, or you end up using a generic CV. So how do you make sure that you're not using a generic CV to apply for a role? So number one, you need to spend time understanding the role that you are applying for. Can you hear me, by the way? I'm just cautious. It's raining heavily in Nairobi and I'm teethering. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, James, you're clear.
Great. So how do you make sure that you understand the challenge? So first of all is read through the JD that has been posted. And most of the organizations right there at the moment, they are using very generic CVs. However, what we always recommend candidates or applicants is to make sure that you understand the challenge of the job. So, for example, I've used a CV. I hope it's eligible to you guys. Reading through that CV, you can tell this is it's a general manager role. However, if you read about the preferred qualifications, you can tell the experience working with partners, developing relationships with mobile and telephony products. It might seem easy, but if you go and search about, hey, this is a GM role in Android, what does it entail? It seems generic, but do you have experience in terms of building teams, scaling teams, and building products at that age? If you don't have that, and you're straight from campus or from internship, or you have like X amount of years of experience without managing people, don't apply for that job. So one of the things that we try to advise people is make sure that you understand the challenge behind the job, and then tailor make your CV for that specific job. Most of the times what happens is you have a generic CV. I have 11 years of experience, and I'm sorry to say this, I've never applied for a role. Most of the times, actually, since I left campus, it's been poaching. I've been poached all my career life. However, I've met people who they have a generic CV. The CV they wrote 5 years ago is the same CV they're using today. So you make sure as an applicant, you tailor make your CV to the role that you are applying for. And let's talk about work experience. Now, your CV is your story. It's a story of the achievements you have achieved over a certain period of time that you've served. And I'll I'll emphasize on this. Even when you're in campus, there are things that you did in terms of organizing. Like I'll give you an example. Mark, are you still there? Magatere? Okay, maybe he's left. Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so I try as much as well to give an example of Mark. Mark is a student that I met at Dedan Kimadi, and he's been very vocal and also very influential in terms of bringing in industry partners and also organizing meetups and all these hackathons at Dedan Kimadi. And as a student, those are the things that you need to also bring out in your CV, because it's a story of your achievements. And you can say, hey, I organized the Google Developer Groups meetup at Dedan Kimadi, uh, and this is what I went through, and these are the achievements. And in terms of achievements, I was able to bring in the faculty of IT, the dean of students, blah, blah, blah. And at the end of the day, I sent out as a survey. This was the satisfaction rate that I got from the attendance in that meetup. If I give you another example, you're part of the Christian Union that was organizing, and I'm sorry, I'm not profiling our first lady because she's a woman, but I'm just giving an example of the impact that you need to show in your CV. You're able to send out messages on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and out of that, you are able to get read rates or click rates at X amount. And out of that, these are the people who are able to attend. So CV is a sequential story of the different positions you've held. Either you're an intern straight from campus, uh, new to the industry, what have you been able to achieve? And then one of the things we find irrelevant is people putting in things that were not impactful in terms of your career development. And I'll give you an example. You find someone who wants to become a software engineer, and then you're talking about, in 2019, 2020, I was a matatu tout, or I served in a certain restaurant as a server. That is irrelevant. So you need to make sure that that doesn't appear in your CV, because it's not directly influencing you want to hold in the software, in the tech industry. So if you look at Faith's CV, which I'm sharing right now, for example, you can tell she's tried to, as much as possible, define what she's been able to achieve over a certain period of time through metrics. And I'm just trying to to show you. So, for example, you can see in a latest job where she's talking about being a senior software engineer, she had a team of 4, which was able to increase the payment production by 15%. And then talking about 60% or more increasing in the productivity by 40% or more in a company that she worked for previously. So how do you make sure that your CV has a lot of metrics? And metrics can be both qualitative and quantitative. Quantitative is, of course, numbers, qualitative in terms of words. So, how do you make sure that as you're getting into the industry, you are that very well in your CV? Two, um, the clarity in terms of your job, and also quantifying, and I already mentioned this, quantifying what has been your impact in an organization, and also making sure that there is clarity in terms of the dates that you served in an organization. Just don't just assume that someone knows you are there for it. Make sure that you capture that in your CV so that it's clear to the recruiter or the hiring team, in order to for them to be able to follow up and understand, hey, these potential candidate was able to serve in a certain organization for a certain period of time, and these were their impact. And then, as I mentioned, minimize irrelevant jobs. So in Faith's CV, as you can see, she was a software engineer. Then maybe because of COVID, or maybe um, unavoidable circumstances, served as a tattoo restaurant, server as a tattoo restaurant, and then moved back to software engineering. That being a server in a restaurant doesn't count as part of your career journey towards becoming an elite software engineer. So remove that. Another example, which is something that we always get questions from people, like, who are making, trying to make a breakthrough into the industry. So whatever I have freelance experience, I've been working at Upwork, or I went to a Kuhasol, for example, which is a local Kenyan company doing a lot of similar things that Upwork is doing. Now, so your job title should always be reflective of the work that you did. So don't say, I was a front-end engineer, but however, when I'm interviewing you, I realize that you're a back-end or a QA engineer. Don't say, I was marketing manager, yet you're literally an associate being delegated on to do. Don't say you're a sales manager, yet you're not managing any portfolios. You're literally a sales associate who was responsible for the go-to-market, operations, or going to, the different fields and being able to deliver certain sales. So what you need to do is make sure that you create the titles based on what actually able, sorry, based on the title that you held, and then also your description of what you've been able to achieve, as I be metrics infused. And then the last thing is ensure that any role that you've held is quantifiable or quantitative in terms of what you are able to achieve. And you don't have to put numbers necessarily. You can always say, this is the impact I had in that organization. And when we do our due diligence, we can actually get the information that, hey, this is what you're able to achieve. And then finally, the consistency in terms of the titles, as I mentioned, make sure that if your title was a software developer, don't call yourself a development lead or a software engineering manager. If you're a software engineer, you are a software engineer. If you're a manager, at the end of the day, career progression is harder, and you need to appreciate the fact that it comes with a lot of experience, exposure in the market. So don't overshoot yourself just because you're trying to get a job which is in the higher ranks. Personally, I've learned the hard way. You have to appreciate that achieving progression is a ladder. Just like I usually give the example, in our primary school, the mathematics books that we used to buy back then. I don't know how about nowadays, but the mathematics book had usually had the staircases. So from class one to class two, class two, class three, class that, like that way. So that was a reflection of how life is. You need to make sure that even in your career, you're taking those steps similar to the front page of that mathematics books. There's no one who ever jumped from class 1 to 4. And if you notice in that book, the right foot is always at the front and the left foot is always at the back, just to show you that don't forget where you're coming from, because the lessons you learned from where you're coming from will catapult you to the next level. And that's why your front, your right foot majority of the times is always on the front. And I'm not trying to, of course, profile the left-footed people. It can always be both ways. But never forget where you're coming from, because the experience and the skills you learn from where you are right now will help you grow to the next level. Now, let's talk about achievements. How do you make sure that you are aligned in terms of career development? And in case you have any questions, feel free to come off mute, ask me as many questions as you want. I'm here for you for the next 21 minutes or so. So how do you make sure that you tailor make your CV? And I'm addressing people who are in the tech industry. So there's a technical bit, the admin, and the leadership. The leadership is about more of senior positions where you're like myself. I'm now focusing on more of strategy, change management, stakeholder management, and the likes. But when you're early in your career, what you need to focus on is how do you craft and nurture your skills in terms of mastering what you're really good at. And then when you get into the system, you start now thinking about managing people, growing the organization, change management. How do you also make sure that the communication is clear? So personally, I've already gone through the two phases, the technical and admin. So I'm more into the leadership, where I'm thinking about the strategy and change management. Okay, someone came off mute. Okay, cool. So as you're starting your career, how do you make sure that you're a master of your own craft? If you say you're good at a certain skill, how do you make sure that, if it's a coding language, how good are you at it? If you say you're good at PHP, uh, Python, Laravel, C++, or Java, how good are you? If you're becoming and thinking about becoming a solution architect, how do you make sure that you're very good at the architecture of it? If you're into data science and data analysis, are you aware about, all the statistical tools that you need to know? There's a lot of, all these statistical tools that you need to be perfect in. So how do you make sure that you're really good at it? And then when you get into the organizations or into the practice, you now start growing into it. So end of the day, your CV needs to be very memorable. So make sure that as I said, 6 to 8 minutes or seconds, for us to be able to identify whether you are the right candidate that we want to engage. So make sure that your CV is, and ensure that you tailor make your CV to the role. So spend time to read through the JD. Don't just read the title. You're like a software developer, and then you apply with a generic CV. Make sure you tailor make that, and then I ensure that you also highlight what you're passionate about. And then at the end of the day, my advice to you guys is never give up. I told you about when Dandela, in my first job posting I received, 6 to 12,647. I'll never forget that. And then my boss was like, Ndiga, are these fake accounts? And I was like, no. People really actually wanted to get these opportunities. So how do you make sure that you never give up when you get a rejection? And every time you get a rejection, always ask for feedback. What could I have done better to position myself to be eligible for this role? So my advice to you guys, as you get into the ecosystem, as you get to the job industry, make sure that whenever you get a rejection, it's not a downfall for you. It's an opportunity for you to get better and continue sharpening your iron for the future opportunities. that's it for me. I want to give you guys time to ask me questions. Yeah, let's do this. Any questions?
Yeah, so guys, if you have any question, you can just ask for presenter permission, and then once it will be granted, you'll be able to unmute yourself. Yeah, so in case you have any questions, just do that. Okay, so personally, I have a question. Yeah, okay, so Nini, let's say in the case of job adverts, because these are things that are not like advertised on the TV. So, what are some of the sites or maybe places that will recommend where people can be getting such alerts for the jobs?
Yeah, cool. It's so first of all, it depends with what you want. And let me tell you, and I'm assuming I'm speaking to people who are in their early career stage. One of the things I usually advise people is don't overshoot yourself. If you're coming straight from campus or you have less years of experience in the industry, most of the job sites usually give you an opportunity to tailor make the job notifications based on your industry experience. So my advice to you is make sure that when you're signing up for certain notifications, you're also setting your expectations clear in terms of the years of experience you have in the industry. Now, what kind of sites can you visit? So, for Google, we have careers.google.com. Actually, let me type them out. So we have careers.google.com. For my ex company, we have careers.microsoft.com. Then we have andela.com. Then we have upwork.com. Can you see the chat by the way?
We can see the charts.
Great. And then there's also Parity. I like this one because what Parity is trying to do is pull all the job opportunities, especially in Africa, in one portal. So you can also use talent.parity.co.io.jobs to get opportunities. And then we have, I think IBM. You can also subscribe to IBM newsletter. And sorry, I'm talking about the big techs. It's because it's where I am right now. And then for startups, majority of them usually use Parity. So you can use Parity, which I shared, talent.parity.io/jobs. Um, and in case you're here and you come across a job in Parity that you're interested in, I'm one of the board members at Parity, so you can ping me and then I can definitely refer you to the hiring team to review. Those are the ones which come of mind right now. Unless my friend is Mark here. Mark has a lot of resources.
Yeah, I'm on the call. Hello. I
Yeah,
hope that I'm
Mark,
audible.
You can also share. You can also share some of the links. This is also org in Nyeri. What's the name of this org in Nyeri?
The G2.
G2. Yeah, G2. There's the G2. Yeah, there's the G2 as well. The G2. If you want to subscribe to the G2, yeah, thank you, Manzia, for that. G2 also has a lot of opportunities. Um. What else do I know? But anyway, we can share on the chat before we leave so that people have an opportunity to review that.
Absolutely. I actually had a question on regards to the application that you had said you can possibly ask questions in the course. So, I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, I wanted to ask now in regards to application like internships. For instance, I normally receive, I've subscribed to the careers.google.com to the internship roles, and a number of them that I receive are possibly from Dublin. You can see the others from from Mountain View, or roles that are not within the country. That is the internships. Can we apply for such internships? And asking possibly even on behalf of people who have been asking me that question, can I apply to an internship that they are looking for an intern, but the role is situated, I don't know, it's the office, or it's situated in Dublin, but I received that that application, that is that job opportunity. Can I apply for it? And in case
Yeah.
if it's
Mark,
yes.
Mark, 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 you can apply for any internship opportunity, especially with these multinationals. What usually happens is they pay for your accommodation, they pay for your travel, and you have a salary. And it's a good opportunity for you to showcase your skill. So for me, I usually advise people when you get these notifications, just apply. The worst case scenario you can get is a rejection, and that's fine. At least you tried.
Sure.
In this world, the worst failure is not to try.
Mhm.
You better fail trying than not trying. So challenge
Absolutely.
yourself, give yourself that opportunity, apply to Dublin, wherever. And whenever you apply, if you're in this call, reach out to me. Tell me, hey, Indiga, I applied for an internship opportunity in Dublin, the US. Can you talk to the recruiter? Blah blah blah. They'll review. And before I even
Awesome.
recommend you, actually, I'll first of all review your CV because I also don't want to make sure that I'm just meeting, a CV that doesn't meet the required standards internally.
Sure, sure. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
great. So as we wind up, if you don't have any more questions, I have a few tips and tricks here. So so number one, here we have a CV that I want to take you through so that you understand some of the mistakes you make when you're writing your CV. Number one, gaps in sentences. So you can see you're writing your CV, you're talking about your career summary. These are we pick up very quickly in a CV. So you can see there's a gap in sentence within the letter. Make sure that you cross-check your CV before you're submitting. Number two, consistency in terms of your education work experience. Make sure you capture that very well. And then date formatting, it's very keen. So you can see, for example, in this CV, the person had inconsistency in terms of their date formatting. If you're choosing short form, let it be short form. It's it full format, let it be for full format all through. Another thing is you can see you put eclipses instead of just using full stop. That questions your attention to details. And then, of course, mixing capital letters in between sentences. So, for example, you can see this candidate when working for Kisumu Foods. In terms of what they say, they had a good experience, but you see, their roles and responsibilities um, are small letters instead of being capitalized. So you need to make sure that your first letters of the first words should be capitalized. So that's just an example that I wanted to share with you guys so that you understand what are some of the things that as you're applying for a job, you make mistakes in. Cool. Sorry, I have a very dead stop at 8 minutes too. So please, if you have any questions, feel free to come off mute. If you want to follow up, let me know. If you want to send your CV, let me send my email address. If you want to have a session, you're shy, or you want to follow up for a CV training session, because I also do that. Train you, you share your CV. I train you on how to tailor make your CV for a certain role. I've shared my email address on chat, so feel free. Yes, Wilson, you have a question?
Okay, thank you. Um, I don't know how much time you have with
8 minutes.
us.
I have 7 minutes. I have another call at 5. So sorry.
Okay. So I have a CV here that I was using sometime. I don't know if I can share it. So because I'm sure I've been making those mistakes you're talking about, and that's why I've never won any job. um, I don't know if I can share it.
So
You said you can
what you
screen
can do,
it in
what you can
8
do is,
seconds.
for the sake of time here, you can send it. I've shared my email address. Feel free
Okay.
to send it to me. Um, but I can definitely find time for you this week to go through your CV. Then I'll give you tips and tricks on how to tailor make it.
Okay. No worries.
Cool. Any other questions? It's either I was boring, this was not informative, or you guys are satisfied with everything.
Oh, okay. Hello, James.
Hi.
So the session was also live on YouTube, and I can see we have some questions from there. Yes,
Okay.
so the first one, what are the common red flags or mistakes that recruiters look for? I think you've addressed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. The other one, also in terms of length, how long should a CV typically be? And are there like any exceptions?
Yeah, good question. So for me, a CV that is more than one page is it's too much. I have, for example, I usually give advice. I have 11 years of experience in the industry. My CV is one page. As you grow up the ladder, there are some things that you need to drop off. Right now, if you're straight from campus, it makes sense for you to talk about your hobbies, the internships that you've done, or even volunteership work. But as you get the industry experience, that's irrelevant. So one page is fine, 1.5 if you're stretching it too much, but it depends with the level of seniority. But for me, and especially in the tech industry, I think one page maximum is enough. If I want to dig deeper into understanding, for example, what was your first job? What did you learn? Then we can dig deeper into that. But as you grow, my advice is always remove the irrelevant jobs that are not making an impact in your current growth in the industry. As I mentioned, my 11 years of experience, there are some things I don't have, and I'll tell you, I don't have my first job at Amref on my CV. I don't have my second job at Andela on my CV. I only have a Microsoft, Safeboard, and Google. I don't have my education experience there. I don't have any certifications because they are irrelevant. However, there's something you guys need to make sure that it's always up to date, your LinkedIn profile. A lot of us nowadays, and when I say a lot of us, is the people who are in talent acquisition, we are using LinkedIn as a way of sourcing candidates. Make sure a lot of information that you can't keep in your CV is on your LinkedIn. So my advice to you is your LinkedIn profile should be an up-to-date reflection of what you are. And in LinkedIn, you can put all the way from nursery school, primary, secondary, um, university, your internship, your volunteer work you did, and the impact you had. I advise all of you as you're attending, make sure that your LinkedIn profile reflects your career journey. Then your CV is just a summary of your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, okay. And just a quick question as we close. Yes, so let's say right now I qualify for all the job descriptions that have been provided, but the only place where I draw the line, let's say they want a degree specific, a degree that revolves around that field, and I have, let's say, a degree in a course like education. So can that be a hindrance for me to apply the job?
Not necessarily. If you highlight, and that's why I say tailor make your CV to the role that you are applying for. So if your background is in commerce, marketing, and I'm not profiling by the, but you're making a career change into the tech industry, make sure that you are able to tailor make your CV to that role so that you can show whatever you've been able to achieve over a certain period of time reflects what that JD is asking for. Okay. And the good thing is most of the technical roles nowadays, they don't really necessarily, check for what you've been able to achieve before in terms of education. So you can see a bachelor degree in something, at least you have a degree, but that won't block you from getting an opportunity just because you did a bachelor's in education or science, horticultural management like I did. So you need to make sure that, how do you make sure that when you're applying for a certain role, your achievements over a certain period of time reflect to what that role is asking for. It's not about your education, but your experience and the skills and the experience you're bringing into the role.
Yeah, thank you for that. And also, thank you for taking your time and joining us in this session. We've really learned a lot. Yeah, so just an AOB, we were live on YouTube. For those who would have missed the session, you'll find us there in the GDC account. So, yeah, so I guess right now we can end the meeting. I leave it over to Wilson Juma. Yeah, thank you once again, James, for taking your time.
Yes, thank you, Alex, for that, and thank you everyone who joined. Thank you so much, our guest James, and we hope to meet again in another meetup. Thank you.
Thank you, Wilson, and thank you everyone for the 20 something people who joined. Really appreciate it. In case you have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I've also shared my email address. I'll try as much as possible to support you. And I'm super proud of you guys in Embu. My village is in Kirinyaga Moya, Kimbembe. So, and looking forward to growing the community there in Embu.
Yeah, we are looking forward to that. Thank you.
Okay, bye guys. Anytime for you guys. Bye.